There was nothing around them. There was nothing in sight. They were literally in a drought. It's similar to what we call today recession, because recession was when famine and inflation met together. It's similar to when you have the demand of goods being produced, but no one has the money to buy whatever is being produced. And then on the flip side, the money keeps constantly flowing less and less and less until you're not able to buy anything nor sell anything. It was a time of drought. There had been no rain. There was no rain in the city. There was no rain in Samaria. And they found themselves indulging in idol gods because they seemed like they could not get a response from God. So now notice the backdrop. You'll find yourself looking at Elijah on the top of Mount Carmel in a contest against people who had come together aiming directly at him because they did not like who he represented. Elijah has spent his time standing for God, spent his time speaking for God. And now you find this Jezebel system, this system that was able to corrupt the government in such a way in which you will find that you could not even say the name of Yahweh God anywhere because you would have been conflicted. You would have hurt someone's feelings. You would have constantly tried to ridicule somebody for saying the name of God. It's similar in our culture how we have slowly taken away several times. We constantly are taking away our First Amendment rights because they tell you you can't preach against this, and now they're trying to legislate what you can say and what you can't say. And so it's similar to how they were able to legislate the government in such a way in which they could change the perspective of the people around them. What you must understand is that the trials that we face today are not trials to test us, but they're trials to groom us. Why do you say that? Because Elijah was groomed for what was getting ready to take place. If he had never experienced drought, if he had never experienced famine, he would have never known that God could make a way. Why do you say that? I argue that because you will notice that as soon as he trusts in God, the same way he trusts in God, he sits up under the juniper tree and asks God to kill him. Because he felt like the pressure and the situations that were going on in his life were worthless for him, and he might as well end it all. This is the culture in which you see people now spending more time indulging in their own selves. Paul said it like this, that they are in their own lust, feeling good for themselves and not worrying about the moment. We call that postmodernism, in which there's no absolutes. You can't be absolutely sure that God exists. You can't be absolutely sure that Jesus is the Son of God. We live in a culture that lives in literally moral absolutes. We don't know anything. We're not sure about anything. We can't tell whose God is with and how God is and who he is and what he is because we are not exactly sure who God is in the first place. And because of that, Elijah stood up in a culture that did not represent God because they were so bamboozled on pleasing themselves. You got to understand that even though we have all these great social networks and we have all these great things, that our main goal is to worship God. Main goal is to be worshipers. What does that mean? That literally means that we exist to serve our fellow man in society, while at the same time they notice a difference in our lives. If you are constantly living the same way and doing the same thing and acting the same way, someone should want to see a difference in your behavior. I believe it was a great philosopher that said that Christianity can become learned behavior. Because we know how to do a hand clapping, we know how to do a foot stomping, we know how to feel good and how to do the shouting, how to go through the motions. But when it really hits your life, when you really have to stand up and be afflicted for the things you preach about, when they're about to make legislations and you have to stand up against the culture and society of your day, what do you do then when you seem like everything else seems to be a big blur? In which you don't understand why you're going through what you're going through. You feel depressed and don't know why you're feeling depressed. And sometimes you seem as if everything else should just be going away from you. Why me? Why is this happening to me? But God was trying to get Elijah to understand that where he was taking him was better than where he had been before. I come to let someone know today that yes, you've been afflicted. Yes, you've been red marked, but the only reason why you're red marked is because there is something on your life. God has hand on you. Elijah looked around and said, this is crazy. This situation seems horrible. It seems as if I don't understand what's going on with me. But then he realized, and he said to God, he said, I feel like I'm the only one standing up in this country to say something against what's going on. All the other preachers are preaching other good stuff, and everybody else is talking about nice houses and cars, and everybody else is talking about how good you look and how nice you have to be, and if you jump 2 steps and throw an offering, you'll get blessed. But I'm the only one preaching righteousness. I'm the only one preaching holiness. I'm the only one preaching the proof of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Notice Elijah had a problem because he was speaking against folks who sat up there and they did good worship with God, and then they tried to play around and into the temple and do the same that they did in the outside on the inside. They brought the same mentality in God's house and went outside and did something else contrary to God. And yet they were calling on his name, and then after that, the very people that were connected to God, the very ones that were Israelites, now turn completely away from him and seek somebody else. Who do we listen to? Berkeley College did a study and said that the average person listens to or watches 300 commercials a day, which means you have 300 voices telling you what to wear, how to look, and what exactly makes you look good. What does that mean? That means that I literally have someone else developing a system to literally destroy me in this culture. Amen. Amen. What are you saying? What I'm saying is that the Jezebel system was designed to destroy the people of God. Then the next thing I'll tell you is that the Jezebel system started in the house of God. Wow. Because when you look at this text carefully, you will notice that all the real prophets turned themselves over to seducing spirits called Jezebel. Right. Amen. And the other ones who were real were hiding out in caves. Amen.